Well, hello there. This video is about the differential ailerons technique. Is it always useful? Can it always be applied? Could something go wrong? Watch this video if you want to know the answers. I'm going to demonstrate several flights I performed to test differential with my flying wing. The wing under test is the AR Sonicmodell Classic. The first launch attempt failed, as you can see, and I decided to keep it in this video because it was the only failed start I have ever had with this wing. The INF auto launch works perfectly fine with it, even with the default settings. For the motor prop combo I'm using, the motor is 2216 and the prop is 8 by 4,5. The reason for the failed start was because the wing somehow managed to slip out of my fingers, despite the fact that I had glued sandpaper to both sides of the skids. Now, the first test flight starts. I wasn't sure whether to include it because I was very cautious and only was slightly banking left and right, which might seem boring to watch, but I kept it to show you the landing, and also because it gives me some time to explain the differential ailerons technique. Still, I will not show you the entire flight. I will cut to the landing shortly after. And after this flight, I'll show you the mixer configuration I was using. So, what's the differential ailerons technique in the first place? It is used to mitigate the effect of adverse yaw. Adverse yaw is the natural tendency of a plane to yaw in the opposite direction overall. This happens because the wing that moves upward produces more lift, but also more drag, and that drag pulls the wing back, causing adverse yaw. There are several ways to mitigate adverse yaw. The first one applies to planes with a tail and rudder by adding a bit of a rudder into the turn. If that isn't enough, the differential ailerons technique could be used. This involves configuring asymmetrical throws for the ailerons, so that during a roll, the upward moving aileron deflects more than the downward moving aileron. And this technique also works for tailless aircrafts like flying wings. There are several ways to set up differential ailerons. The first is to mechanically tilt the servo horns towards the wing's leading edge. But personally, I don't like to readjust servo rods once the plane is trimmed. So in my opinion, it is much easier to set up a mixer on the transmitter side. Alternatively, if a flight controller is installed, the mixer could be configured in the flight controller software, which is the approach I use. Here I'm about to land, and I haven't noticed any improvements or degradations in flight performance during this flight. It was just a normal flight, and the landing was normal as well. Check it out. There. Before I continue with the next flight, I want to show you the mixer settings for differential. Don't be confused that I'm using INF version 8 for demonstration, because it cannot be several years old, can it? While I claim that the flight recordings are several years old, it's because I simply recreated this setup with the currently installed INF version just for demonstration purposes. So, in addition to the existing mixer rules, I added 4 new ones. They are highlighted in the red frame. These new rules add 10% differential. That means the upward moving Elevon has 70% throw, while the downward moving Elevon has 50% throw. 10% differential is considered to be relatively mild settings. And if differential is required, then it is actually suggested to start testing with not more than 10%. To demonstrate how it works, I recorded another short video. For demonstration purposes, I used 30% differential instead, just to make the effect more noticeable, okay? Of course, all test flights were actually performed with 10% differential. This test flight is shown from start to finish without any editing, so you can judge for yourself. Maybe you'll notice something unusual, who knows? During this flight, I was flying a little bit more aggressively. Still, the main goal was to observe how it handles the roll. A bit of background. These flight recordings are several years old already, and I wasn't sure what to do with them. On one hand, I didn't want to delete them completely. On the other hand, they were just sitting on my hard drive, eating up 16 gigabytes of space, and I wanted to get rid of it. So I decided to create this video instead and upload it to YouTube. Let them handle the storage. They've got plenty of space, right? And at the time, I wasn't really an experienced pilot. As I learned about adverse yaw and how to mitigate it, I started wondering whether differential ailerons could improve flight performance. I don't know, things like agility in turns and so on. I had a glider with a conventional tail too, and I intuitively learned to add a bit of a rudder to make it more agile in turns. And that worked perfectly fine, though I didn't know anything about the adverse yaw. But differential was something I hadn't tried before, and I wanted to experiment with it on a flying wing since it has no tail and no rudder. So the question I asked myself was, what would happen if I set up differential ailerons, or more precisely differential elevons in this case? Would it improve the flight performance of the wing in any way? Are there any drawbacks of using differential on that kind of wing? And believe me, I tried to find some information in this regard. I looked for videos on YouTube describing the effectiveness of differential on flying wings, but I couldn't find anything relevant, you know? Maybe it's because I was asking wrong questions. I don't know. So I had no other option but try it myself. Also, I do not have any black box log files from these flights because I wasn't recording them at the time. So I couldn't create a telemetry video overlay like I usually do. But to be honest, it probably wouldn't have added much useful information anyway. A bit of inverted flight and I'll continue to land. Here I'm already gliding into land, and once again, I haven't noticed any difference in flight performance compared to what I experienced with this wing previously. It was again just a normal flight, but the landing was a bit different this time. What I did was switch off the motor and turn left. Let's see what happened next. It should happen somewhere about here. Motor's off. There. It dropped the wing and went nose down, straight into the ground. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and managed to save it from crashing, but it was a very close call. I was genuinely surprised by this situation, as I wasn't expecting it at all. This wing has never shown such a stall instability before. To explain what I mean, here's another, even older flight footage of the very same wing. I'm gliding into land here, no differential is set up. And gliding speed is close to the stall speed. Check how sharp is the left roll in the end. again. See? It shows no tendency of stalling. And that's how I used to fly this thing. Now, this was the last test flight. It still wasn't clear to me what had happened in the previous flight. Was it a piloting error, maybe? Did I bank left too sharp? I wasn't sure. And to find out, I decided to try it one more time. Once again, during this flight, everything seemed normal, just like many other flights before, but the landing was a bit different this time. And I'm also not showing the entire flight and skipping ahead to landing. About here. So here I am gliding into land again, doing exactly the same turn as in the previous flight. I turn off the motor and start to bank left. There. And once again, the exact same thing happens. It drops the wing and goes nose down straight into the ground. Unfortunately, this time I didn't have enough time to save it from crashing. Fortunately, the plane wasn't damaged at all. The EPP foam absorbed the impact and helped it to survive. The only thing that broke was the wing holding plate, which I reprinted, and the plane was ready to fly again in just 30 minutes. Very often, when a plane crashes nose down, the battery rips off the battery holding plate, or even takes parts of the fuselage with it. In my build, the battery sits right behind the foam wall in the nose, side to side, to get the CG right. That placement helped prevent any major damage, as the foam absorbed the battery's kinetic energy during the crash. As I remember correctly, the nose lid was smashed a bit, but it's EPP foam and it is self-healing. I checked a week later and it was like new. No hot water medicine was necessary. Now, explanation and conclusion. There are two main questions to this whole story. Why there was no improvements of the flight performance, and why the stall characteristics worsened. Let's start with the first one. Why there was no improvements of the flight performance. The answer lies in the wing's geometry. It's a back-swept wing, and the adversio is weaker on a back-swept wing. Why? Because sweep creates a so-called roll-yaw coupling. It means that when a back-swept wing starts to roll, the downward-going wing is swept less than the other wing, and less sweep means more lift, but also more drag. This asymmetric drag creates a yaw moment in the direction of roll, counteracting adverse yaw. And this effect is called proverse yaw. Now the second question, why the stall characteristics worsened? Well, this one is a little bit more complicated. To explain this one will have to dig deeper into aerodynamics, into flow and pressure distribution of the wing surface. And one possible explanation is that differential Elevon deflection creates asymmetric flow distributions. The downward going wing, the unloaded wing, with the larger up deflection can experience earlier local separation and stall, while the loaded wing stays attached longer. This can cause roll instability or a sudden wing drop toward the upper Elevon side if you are near stall. And this looks pretty much alike to what I experienced. I cannot say with guarantee that this explanation is correct. Maybe an aerodynamic engineer could comment on this one. But to summarize, big takeaway. Differential is less effective for your control on swept wings. It is meant to reduce adverse yaw, but swept wings already generate weak adverse yaw, sometimes even perverse yaw, due to their geometry. So adding differential to a swept wing is like adding a system that solves a non-problem and paying the price in stall handling. And the conclusion, on backswept flying wing, differential elevons are often more harmful than helpful. Okay? So this is what I wanted to talk about, and thanks for watching. If you like the video, you know what to do. If you don't like it, you know where to go. And have a good one.